He used to wear a badge. Now he wears nothing but confidence, sweat, and the rhythm of a song. By day, Officer Lucas Kane was everything the city needed. Tall, built like stone, fearless. But by night, he became someone else entirely. The man behind the uniform had secrets, a second life hidden under the flashing lights of a nightclub downtown. They called him the Titan on stage, the muscular cop who moved like sin and looked like salvation. No one knew his real name. No one knew why he did it. Until the night I walked in, I wasn't looking for trouble. I wasn't even looking for him. But the moment our eyes met through the smoke and neon, I saw something break inside that man. It wasn't lust, it was recognition. Because behind those perfect abs and that steady gaze was someone fighting to be free. That night changed both our lives. But when a secret this dangerous comes to light, someone always gets burned. If you've ever fallen for someone who wasn't allowed to love you back, this story will hit you right in the heart. Stay until the end, because sometimes even the strongest men can't escape what they feel. You can tell a cop by his walk. That's what my father used to say. The confidence, the precision, like every step belongs to someone who's seen the worst and learned to survive it. That was Lucas Kane, the kind of man who made a room go silent without saying a word. 6'2", shoulders built like armor, blonde buzz cut, the kind of jawline that could have been carved out of marble. He wasn't just respected at the precinct, he was feared. When I first met him, I didn't know he was a cop. I didn't know anything, really. Just that I was at Inferno, the club everyone warned me about. It was the kind of place that didn't open until midnight and didn't close until dawn. I'd gone because my friend Milo insisted. "You need to stop falling for unavailable men," he'd said. "Come watch some who are." I was halfway through my drink when the lights dimmed. The DJ dropped the beat, the crowd screamed, and from behind the curtain came the man who'd rewrite my life. He stepped into the spotlight, all muscle and command, wearing black jeans that fit like sin and a police shirt half unbuttoned, badge gleaming under the strobe lights. The crowd roared. Some cheered. Some reached for him. But he didn't play to them. He moved like he owned the stage, slow, deliberate, each motion sharp as a blade. At first I thought it was a gimmick, another dancer using the cop fantasy. But then I looked closer. The way he scanned the crowd, the posture, the control, that wasn't an act. That was training, real training. When his eyes met mine, everything around us blurred. The bass faded, the neon haze vanished. There was just him, looking down at me like he'd seen a ghost. For a second I thought I imagined it. But then he hesitated mid-step, his breath caught, and the rhythm slipped, just for a heartbeat. Then he turned away and kept moving, like nothing happened. I couldn't take my eyes off him. Not because he was perfect, though he was, but because there was something wrong, something haunted behind the control. When his set ended, the club exploded with noise. Bills flew toward the stage. He nodded once to the crowd, grabbed his jacket, and disappeared through a side door. Milo leaned toward me, eyes wide. "Damn, that's the Titan. He never breaks character. You saw that, right?" "Yeah," I said quietly. "I think he looked right at me." "Everyone thinks that," Milo laughed. But I knew better. I left the table, pushed past the dancers, and followed the narrow hallway behind the stage. The walls smelled like sweat and smoke. I almost turned back until I saw him. Lucas stood alone under a flickering light, wiping sweat from his face with a towel. Without the performance lighting, he looked real, tired, guarded. "Human, you're not supposed to be back here," he said without turning around. "Then arrest me," I replied before I could stop myself. He froze. Then he turned slowly. His eyes, sharp blue assessing, landed on mine. "You think that's funny?" "I don't know," I said. "Do you?" His lips twitched like he was fighting a smile. "You don't belong here." "Neither do you," I said softly. That made him pause. He tossed the towel onto a chair, studied me for a moment, then exhaled. "What's your name?" "Eli." He nodded once. "Lucas." The name hit me like a chord I'd been waiting to hear. I'd never seen someone look so strong and so lost at the same time. His forearms flexed as he ran a hand through his damp blonde hair. The faint scar above his eyebrow caught the light. Every inch of him looked like he'd been built to fight, and had. "So," I said carefully, "you really are a cop?" His expression hardened. "You should leave." "I'm not here to cause trouble." He stepped closer, his presence filling the hallway. "Then why are you here, Eli?" I swallowed. "Because when you looked at me out there, it felt like you wanted to be somewhere else." For a second, his jaw tightened, like I'd touched a nerve. "You don't know what you saw." "Maybe not," I said. "But I know what I felt." He turned away, grabbed his bag. "Go home, kid. I'm not a kid." He stopped, glanced over his shoulder. "Then act like it." He started walking toward the exit, but I followed. "You dance like someone who's trying to forget something." He stopped at the door, back to me. "You think you're the first person who's tried to figure me out?" "No," I said, "but I might be the first one who actually cares." He turned then, really turned, eyes hard, chest rising and falling. For a moment, neither of us spoke. The tension between us was like a wire pulled too tight. Finally, he said, "You have no idea what you're walking into, Eli." "Then show me." His breath caught. For a second, I thought he'd yell. Instead, he reached for my shoulder, firm but not rough. "You need to go." I stepped closer. "Tell me you don't feel it, and I'll walk away." His hand dropped. The silence stretched. Then he whispered, "That's the problem." Before I could speak, he pushed through the door and disappeared into the rain. I stood there for a long time, heart pounding, watching the empty doorway. I didn't know what just happened, only that it wasn't over, because the toughest cop in the city had just let his guard slip. And I'd seen the man underneath. I didn't see Lucas again for 3 days, but that didn't stop me from thinking about him, about the way his voice sounded in that narrow hallway, about the look in his eyes when he said, "That's the problem." I told myself to forget it, that he was just another man living a double life. Like the city itself, all shine on the surface, all scars underneath. Still, by the 4th night, I was back at Inferno. The bouncer recognized me and grinned. "You again? You must really like the show," I shrugged. "Just doing some research." "Yeah," he said, scanning me up and down. "Sure you are." Inside, the club was packed. The smell of cologne and sweat mixed with the heavy bass. The lights pulsed in slow, hypnotic waves. When Lucas walked on stage this time, the reaction was instant. The crowd went wild, hands reaching, bills flying. But I wasn't watching his body. I was watching his eyes, and I was right. He wasn't there. His movements were precise, mechanical, like he was performing out of obligation, not desire. When the song ended, he didn't linger for tips. He vanished backstage like a shadow escaping light. I followed again, pushing past a dancer who winked at me. "Careful," he said. "Titan doesn't like to be followed." Too bad. I found him in the same hallway, pulling on a jacket. Hair damp with sweat. "You again?" he muttered without looking up. "You still pretending you don't see me?" He turned, eyes sharp. "You shouldn't be here, Eli. Then why does it feel like you want me to be?" For a moment his expression softened, almost. Then he sighed, rubbing his temple. "You don't know what you're getting into. Then explain it to me." He hesitated, studying me. "You really want to know who I am?" "I think I already do," I said. "You're a man who's tired of hiding." He exhaled, laughing bitterly. "You think this is hiding? This is survival." I leaned against the wall. "You're a cop. You don't need this job. So why are you here?" He stared at the floor, silent for a long time. Then he said, "Because sometimes the uniform feels like a cage. And this," he gestured toward the stage, "this feels like freedom. Just for a few hours." I took a step closer. "Freedom from what?" He met my eyes. "Myself." The honesty in his voice hit me like a punch. Before I could respond, someone called from the end of the hall. "Kane, you're up for the late set." He stiffened. "I told them I'm done for tonight." The voice laughed. "Management disagrees. They're paying extra. Bachelor party, high rollers." Lucas groaned, muttering something under his breath. He grabbed his badge-shaped pendant, the one he wore even when he danced, and shoved it under his shirt. "Go home, Eli. Not until you tell me why you keep pushing me away." He turned sharply. "Because I don't want to drag you down with me." "You're not dragging me anywhere," I said. "I'm walking beside you." For a second the mask cracked again. He looked at me like he wanted to believe it. But then the stage lights flickered through the hallway door, and his expression hardened. You don't understand the kind of world I live in. Out there in uniform, I'm a symbol. In here, I'm a secret. There's no space in between. Then maybe it's time to make one, I said. He opened his mouth to argue, but stopped when the music changed. Louder now, pulsing through the floor. He looked toward the curtain, then back at me. You really don't give up, do you? Not when it matters. He smirked faintly, shaking his head. Fine, you want to know the truth? Come find me after the show, I smiled. Promise? He didn't answer, just gave me one last look before walking through the door. When he appeared on stage again, everything was different. The crowd screamed louder, drunker. Lucas's movements were slower, more intense, not performance, but defiance. He didn't smile. He didn't flirt. His eyes kept darting toward the back of the room, toward me. Halfway through the set, a man at the front grabbed at his arm. Lucas froze. For a split second, the calm, controlled cop vanished, replaced by something raw, a flash of danger. He grabbed the man's wrist, firm, authoritative. The crowd went silent. Then he released him and walked off stage mid-song. I didn't wait. When I reached the back hallway, he was pacing, breathing hard. Hey, I said quietly. You okay? He looked up, jaw tight. No, what happened? He ran a hand through his hair. That guy, he's a defense attorney. Works with the department sometimes. If he recognized me, my stomach dropped. You think he did? He nodded, eyes full of panic. If word gets out that a cop's moonlighting as a dancer, they'd crucify you, I said. He let out a harsh laugh. That's one way to put it. I stepped closer. Then tell me what to do. How can I help? His voice cracked. You can't. You shouldn't even be near me right now. Lucas, he grabbed my arm suddenly, eyes fierce. You don't get it. This isn't a game. My whole career could be over. I met his gaze. Then let me be the one thing in your life that's real. Something in him broke then. I saw it in the way his shoulders dropped, the way his breath caught. For the first time, he didn't look like a cop or a dancer. He just looked like a man, exhausted, lonely, and afraid to want what he wanted. He released my arm, voice barely a whisper. You should hate me for this. Too late, I said softly. Before he could respond, the club manager burst into the hallway. Kane, what the hell was that? You walk out mid-performance, you're done here. Lucas's face went pale. You can't. I just did. The man snapped, throwing a towel at him. Get your stuff and go. The door slammed. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. Then Lucas looked at me, really looked, and for the first time, there was no wall left. This is gonna get bad, he said quietly. Then we'll face it together. He nodded slowly, his voice almost breaking. You really are trouble, Eli. Yeah, I said, smiling through the chaos. But maybe I'm the kind you need. Outside, the rain started again. Soft at first, then heavy, washing the neon off the street like the city itself was trying to start over. So was he. So was I. The next morning, the city felt heavier, the kind of grey that sits on your skin. I woke to 3 unread messages from Milo and a headline already spreading through every police chat group. Officer Lucas Kane linked to underground club. My stomach dropped. At the precinct, screens glowed with the same gossip. The photo wasn't explicit, just Lucas outside Inferno, rain on his jacket, the club's neon sign bleeding red above him. But it was enough. The caption did the rest. Badge by day, dancer by night. When he walked in, conversation stopped. He looked calm, too calm. His uniform was perfect, hair cropped sharp, but his eyes, they'd lost their usual steel. Donnelly called him in within 5 minutes. The blinds stayed closed for nearly an hour. I watched from my desk, pretending to type while the others whispered. When the door finally opened, Lucas walked out without a word. He passed me once, our eyes locking for half a second, long enough for me to see that the walls were back up, higher than ever. I waited until lunch to find him in the parking lot, leaning against his cruiser, cigarette burning between his fingers. They suspended you? I asked. He nodded. Pending investigation. They say it's about image, not conduct. I bit my lip. You think someone from Inferno leaked it? Doesn't matter who, he said. It's done. You could fight it. He looked at me, tired. You think they'll let a cop keep his badge after seeing him shirtless on stage? Why did you do it then? I asked quietly. If you knew it could end like this? He exhaled smoke, eyes on the skyline. Because for once in my life, I wanted to feel like I owned something. Not the department, not the city, just myself. The way he said myself cut deeper than I expected. Lucas, he shook his head. Eli, listen. You shouldn't be seen with me right now. IA's probably watching everyone I talk to. I don't care. Well, I do. He flicked the cigarette away and stepped closer. I won't let you get pulled into this. I could smell the rain still trapped in his jacket. You can't control everything. That's the only thing I've ever been good at, he said softly. The captain's door opened across the lot, and voices carried, 2 officers talking about the dancer cop. Lucas's jaw tightened. See, that's my life now. He turned to leave, but I caught his arm. Then come with me tonight. Where? Anywhere but here. You need to breathe. He hesitated, then nodded once. 8 o'clock. Don't be late. He met me at the edge of the river, dressed down in jeans and a hoodie. For the first time, he looked like someone who didn't have to be anything for anyone. We walked along the water until the city noise faded. Feels strange being out of uniform, he said. You still stand like you're about to arrest the sky. I teased. He laughed, really laughed, and for a moment the tension melted. But when we stopped at the railing, his expression grew serious again. They're gonna make an example out of me, he said. I can already feel it. They can't take who you are. They can take the badge. And that badge is all I've ever known. I touched his hand gently. Then maybe it's time to know something else. He looked at our hands, then at me. You keep saying things like that, and I'm not going to be able to keep pretending. Then don't. The wind carried the sound of distant traffic, the smell of wet metal and river salt. He turned fully toward me, eyes searching. You really think you want this? Me, I don't think, I said. I know. His breath hitched. For a long time, he just stood there, staring at me like he was memorizing every feature. Then slowly, he reached up and touched my face. His thumb traced the edge of my jaw, rough from the day's stubble. When he kissed me, it wasn't reckless like before. It was careful, deliberate, like he'd finally allowed himself to feel. The rain started again, light and cold, sliding down our faces. Neither of us moved. When he finally pulled back, his voice was a whisper. You don't know what this means? Then tell me. It means if they find out about you. He swallowed hard. You could lose your job too. They'll call it compromise of integrity. That's how they destroy people like us. People like us? I asked. He looked away. People who don't fit the picture. I stepped closer. Then let's paint a new one. He almost smiled. You make it sound easy. It's not. But maybe it's worth it. He turned toward the river again, hands gripping the rail. You ever feel like you're 2 different people? One the world demands, and one you actually are. Every day, he nodded. That's what it's like being me. The badge tells me who to be. The stage reminds me who I am. Which one are you now? He looked at me, eyes soft. Somewhere in between. For a moment, it felt like peace. But then his phone buzzed. He checked it, and the color drained from his face. What is it? Internal affairs, he said quietly. They want me in tomorrow morning. Full hearing. They have photos, videos. My heart dropped. What are you going to do? He stared out over the water. Tell them the truth, I guess. The truth about what? He looked at me again, eyes full of the same storm that had followed him from the beginning. Everything. We stood there in silence, the city glowing behind us. The rain falling harder now. I wanted to say something brave, something that could fix it. But all I could do was reach for his hand again and hope he didn't pull away. He didn't. That was the moment I realized the fight had changed. It wasn't about reputation anymore. It was about survival. Not just his career, but his heart, and maybe mine too. When I arrived at the precinct the next morning, the building felt like a pressure cooker, ready to explode. Everyone was pretending to work, but all eyes kept flicking toward the conference room at the end of the hall, where Internal Affairs was waiting for Lucas Kane. He walked in 15 minutes later, still wearing his uniform. The same uniform that had once made him look invincible now seemed to weigh on him like armor he no longer believed in. His jaw was tight, his blonde hair cropped neat, his blue eyes unreadable. Every step he took echoed off the tile floor. The whispering stopped. I stood near the corner, pretending to shuffle papers. But my chest was a fist. He passed by me without a word. But as he did, his fingers brushed mine, so slight no one else could have noticed. Just that small touch was enough to make the world tilt. "Officer Kane," called Captain Donnelly from the doorway. "They're ready for you." Lucas nodded once and disappeared inside. The door closed. I waited outside like an addict waiting for air. Through the glass, I could see 3 men from IA. Suits, stone faces, recorders on the table. They asked questions. Lucas answered calm but cold. After 30 minutes, his voice started to rise. I couldn't hear the words, but I could read his body, the tense shoulders, the twitch in his jaw, the way his hands stayed perfectly still on the table, as if gripping invisible reins to keep from breaking. When the door finally opened, he looked like he'd been through war. "They suspended me indefinitely," he said quietly as he passed. "What does that mean?" I asked, following him down the hallway. "It means they're deciding whether to fire me or just make an example out of me." "You told them the truth?" He stopped near the exit, turning toward me with eyes that looked both furious and heartbroken. "What truth, Eli? That I danced for money? That I liked it? That I wasn't ashamed?" His voice was raw, like every word hurt. "You shouldn't be," I said. He laughed without humor. "Try telling that to a department built on pretending everyone's the same kind of man." Outside, the air was thick with humidity. The city smelled like wet concrete and old secrets. He lit a cigarette with hands that didn't quite stop shaking. "I'm done fighting it," he said after a long drag. "Maybe this is the universe's way of saying it's time to quit pretending." I stepped closer. "Pretending to be a cop? Pretending I don't want more than the job." The way he looked at me when he said it, I felt it all the way down to the marrow. We stood there in silence, the world moving around us. Cars passing, radio squawking, officers coming and going. None of it mattered. Then Donnelly came out. "Kane," he called. Lucas straightened. "Yeah, Captain?" The older man hesitated, glancing at me before speaking. "IA's leaking this to the press. You've got a few hours before it blows up everywhere." Lucas didn't even flinch. "Figures. You should go home," Donnelly said softly. "Before this place eats you alive." He nodded, tossed the cigarette, and walked to his car. I followed without asking. His apartment was small, neat. A couch, a desk, weights in the corner, nothing personal on the walls. He poured 2 glasses of whiskey and handed me one. "To endings," he said. "Or beginnings," I replied. He smirked faintly. "You really think there's a beginning after this?" "There always is," I said. "You just have to choose it." He leaned back, staring at the amber light through his glass. "When I was a kid, I thought being a cop meant saving people. Then I grew up and realized most of the job is saving yourself from what it does to you. Maybe this is saving you," I said softly. He looked at me for a long moment. "You make everything sound easy, you know that?" "It's not," I said. "It's just worth it." He set his glass down and stood, pacing the room. The late afternoon light filtered through the blinds, cutting gold stripes across his face. "You don't understand what it's like to have everything you've built ripped away because of one truth you can't hide." "I think I do." He stopped pacing, turned to me. "Then why are you still here?" "Because you're not just the mistake you made, Lucas. You're the man who risked everything to be honest about who he is." His eyes softened. The first crack in the armor all day. "You shouldn't have to fix me." "I'm not trying to," I said. "I just want to stand next to you while you fix yourself." Something inside him gave way then. He crossed the room in 2 steps, his hand finding the back of my neck, his mouth finding mine. The kiss wasn't gentle. It was hungry, desperate, real. Every ounce of control he'd carried shattered in that instant. When we broke apart, his forehead rested against mine. "I've been wanting to do that since the first night you walked into that club." "Then why didn't you?" "Because I didn't think I deserved it." I smiled faintly. "You do now," he exhaled, shaky. If you stay, this gets harder. The press, the rumors, everything. I can handle hard, I said. What I can't handle is pretending you don't matter. He kissed me again, slower this time, then pulled me close until our heartbeats found the same rhythm. For a long while, we didn't speak. The world outside could have burned, and neither of us would have noticed. Then his phone buzzed again. He groaned, looked at it, and froze. It's already online. What? He turned the screen toward me. The headline read, "Corrupt cop exposed as gay go-go dancer." The photo was us, taken from the alley behind Inferno, his hand on my shoulder. The caption twisted it into something filthy. He dropped the phone on the table, face pale. "They'll destroy me for this." "No," I said firmly. "They'll try, but they can't destroy what they never built." He looked up, searching my face for doubt, and found none. Then he nodded slowly. "Maybe it's time to stop hiding completely." "What do you mean?" He picked up his jacket, that same black leather one from the club. "If they're gonna tell my story, they're not telling it without me." And with that he walked toward the door, the soldier finally ready to fight his last battle, not with fists, but with truth. The noise died down faster than anyone expected. After a week, the headlines faded, the gossip thinned, and the city found something new to be angry about. But for Lucas, the silence didn't feel like peace. It felt like aftermath, like standing in the middle of a battlefield when the smoke clears and you realize you survived, but you're not the same. He didn't go back to the force. The department accepted his resignation, which was just a polite way of saying they pushed him out. He didn't fight it. He told me once that he'd spent his whole adult life trying to protect a city that didn't really see him. Now he just wanted to protect what was left of himself. He spent the first month running, literally, mornings on the river trail, before the sun came up, pushing his body until sweat soaked through his shirt. He said it helped him breathe. I'd sit on a bench with coffee, waiting for him to loop back, pretending not to notice how people still whispered when they recognized him. One morning, he stopped mid-run, hands on his knees, laughing. "You realize they used to salute me," he said. "And now?" I asked. "They stare like I'm dangerous." I smiled. "You've always been dangerous," he grinned, eyes glinting beneath the dawn light. "Maybe now it's for the right reasons." He started working nights at a local gym, not as a cop, not as a dancer, just as a trainer. He taught self-defense classes to kids and women, the kind of people he used to pull out of bad situations. Word spread fast. Within weeks, the place was packed. The first time I saw him teach, I understood why. He had this calm authority that didn't come from the badge or the uniform. It came from surviving. The kids adored him. The parents trusted him. And for the first time since the scandal, I saw him smile without forcing it. After class one evening, as he wiped sweat from his neck, he caught me watching from the doorway. "You're staring," he said. "Just thinking," I said. "About what?" "How the city lost a good cop," I replied, "but maybe gained something better." He chuckled, grabbing his towel. "You've got a talent for turning pain into poetry." "Someone has to." He tossed the towel at me, laughing. It landed on my shoulder, damp and warm. I threw it back at him. He caught it easily, but didn't let go of my gaze. "You still think I'm worth all this trouble?" I stepped closer. "I don't think. I know." His hand found my waist, tentative but sure. The gym was empty now, just us, the hum of the fluorescent lights, and the smell of chalk and sweat. When he kissed me, it wasn't the desperate kind of kiss we'd shared before. It was slow, grounded, real. Weeks turned into months. Life became smaller but better. Coffee in the mornings, training at the gym, quiet evenings at home. We didn't talk about the past much. We didn't have to. It lived in us, shaped us, but it didn't define us anymore. Then, one afternoon, while Lucas was teaching, a small boy stayed behind after class. Couldn't have been older than 9. He tugged on Lucas's sleeve and said, "My brother says you used to be a cop. Is that true?" Lucas nodded. "Yeah, it's true." The boy looked at him seriously. "Then how come you're not anymore?" Lucas hesitated, glancing at me. I gave a small nod. Let him answer it. "Because sometimes," he said slowly, kneeling so he was eye level with the kid, You realize the best way to protect people isn't by holding a gun. It's by teaching them how to stand up for themselves. The boy nodded, like he understood everything. Maybe he did. After the kid left, I walked up to Lucas. That was perfect, he shrugged. Maybe it was the truth. It was, I said. And you looked good saying it, he laughed, low and genuine. You always know how to ruin a serious moment. That's why you keep me around, he smiled. Yeah, it is. That night, as we sat on his balcony, the city stretched below us, lights flickering, traffic humming like a heartbeat. He had a beer in hand. I had my head against his shoulder. You ever think about going back? I asked quietly. To the Force? Yeah, he was silent for a moment. Then he said, every day, but not because I miss it. Because part of me still feels like I owe it something. You don't, I said. He turned toward me, eyes soft. I know, but I think I owe myself something. What's that? A second chance to live without apologizing for it. I smiled. You're already doing that, he chuckled. You think so? I know so, I said. You're finally free. He nodded slowly, looking out over the city. You know, when I first met you, I thought you were trouble. I was, he laughed. Still are? Yeah, but now you like it, he tilted his head. I love it. The word hung there between us. Heavy, real, undeniable. He didn't take it back, and I didn't make him explain it. Instead, I just leaned in and kissed him. For once, there was no fear of who might see, no shadows, no secrets. Just us, two men who'd stopped running from themselves. Months later, I found him sitting alone in the gym office, staring at his old badge on the desk. Didn't think you kept it, I said. He smiled faintly. Didn't think I needed to. But I guess part of me still does. I walked over, tracing the worn metal with my fingertips. It's not who you are anymore. No, he said, but it's proof I was brave once. I looked at him. You still are. He looked back, eyes glinting in the light. You know what's funny? What? I spent half my life being scared someone would find out who I really was. And the moment they did, it set me free, I smiled. Guess the truth has a way of doing that. He reached for my hand, pulling me close. Then let's never lie to ourselves again. I nodded. Deal. The city lights shimmered against the glass, reflecting two silhouettes, not cop and citizen, not dancer and admirer. Just two men, standing side by side, learning what it meant to live without fear. For the first time in years, Lucas Kane wasn't the toughest man in the city. He was the happiest. Sometimes the bravest thing a man can do isn't facing bullets or breaking laws, it's facing himself. Would you still wear your armor if the only person it protected you from was the one in the mirror? If this story touched you, don't forget to like the video, subscribe and turn on notifications, because the next story might remind you that courage and love often come from the same place. The truth. By noon the next day, Lucas Kane was everywhere. The story had broken wide. Morning shows, blogs, radio hosts all feeding on the same headline. Cop by day, go-go boy by night. They used words like disgraced, depraved, double life. No one talked about the years he'd spent saving people, or the nights he came home too tired to speak. Just the photos, the stage lights, the sweat, the badge gleaming against bare skin. When I arrived at his apartment, reporters were camped across the street. Camera flashes popped every time the door opened. Lucas met me at the back entrance, hoodie up, sunglasses on. He looked like a fugitive. Inside, the air smelled like coffee and smoke. A stack of unopened letters sat on the counter. Suspension paperwork, union notices, maybe worse. The TV was on mute, his face frozen mid-frame on the screen. I told you not to come, he said quietly. You think I'm going to let you face this alone? He shook his head. You don't get it. This isn't just a story anymore. It's a feeding frenzy. They're calling for an investigation into every case I ever touched. They'll find you did your job, I said. He laughed bitterly. Doesn't matter. The badge only protects you until they decide you're no longer useful. Then it becomes a target. I sat beside him on the couch. So what are you gonna do? He stared at the silent TV. They offered me a deal. Resign quietly, disappear for a few months, let the noise die down. And if you don't, they'll make me their cautionary tale. For a while, we just sat there. Rain tapped against the window. The city outside carried on. Sirens, traffic, people living their lives, while his fell apart in slow motion. "You said last night you were done hiding," I said finally. "Did you mean it?" He looked at me, eyes red but steady. "Yeah, then prove it. Don't let them write your story for you." He frowned. "What are you suggesting?" "Tell the truth. On your terms. Go public before they twist it any further." He stared at me like I'd lost my mind. "You really think anyone's going to listen to a disgraced cop who's stripped for cash?" "I think they'll listen to a man who's brave enough to own it." He leaned back, rubbing his jaw. You make it sound so damn simple." "It's not. But you taught me something. Control means nothing if you're always using it to hide." He studied me for a long time. Then slowly he nodded. "All right. If I'm going down speaking." We met that evening at Inferno, the place where it had all started. The owner was hesitant. "Press already called," he warned, but Lucas told him we didn't care. We just needed the stage for 10 minutes. When we walked inside, the dancers paused. Even the music seemed to shrink. They'd seen the headlines too. Some looked away, others nodded with quiet respect. Lucas climbed the stage, his boots echoing against the wood. The lights above buzzed to life, no music, just silence. He looked out at the small crowd, workers, regulars, a few curious strangers. His voice carried easily. "My name is Lucas Kane," he began. "You've probably seen it already. Cop, dancer, liar, pick whichever word sells best." He took a deep breath. "They'll tell you I'm a disgrace to the badge. Maybe they're right. But the truth is, I'm just a man who spent too many years trying to be someone he wasn't. The uniform gave me rules. The stage gave me air. Somewhere between the two, I found the courage to live. Every face in the room was still. Even the bartender stopped polishing glasses. I didn't dance to shame the badge," he continued. "I danced because it was the first place I didn't have to pretend. You can take the uniform from me, but you don't get to take that truth." A single clap broke the silence. Then another. Within seconds, the whole room was applauding. Not loud, not wild, just steady, human. He stepped down, walked straight toward me. "You think that's enough?" he asked. I smiled. "It's a start." The next morning, the video was everywhere. Someone from the club had recorded the whole thing. It spread faster than the scandal itself. "Fired cop speaks his truth" trended for hours. Messages poured in, some hateful, some grateful. People who'd lived double lives, people who'd been afraid to be seen. For every insult, there was a thank you. Lucas read them all, sitting by the window with his coffee, sunlight cutting across his bare arms. "You think they'll ever forgive me?" he asked. "Maybe," I said. "But that's not why you did it." He looked at me, something lighter in his eyes. "No, I did it because you were right. Hiding kills you slower than hate ever could." He set the phone down, stood, and came to me. "You know what's funny?" "What?" "I used to think strength meant never breaking. Turns out it's the opposite." He cupped my face, his thumb tracing the corner of my mouth. "Thank you," he said softly, "for seeing me when I couldn't." I smiled. "Guess we both stopped pretending." He laughed quietly, forehead resting against mine. "So what now?" "Now," I said, "you start living, and I'll be right here while you figure out what that means." Outside, the city kept moving. Same noise, same chaos, but something in the air felt cleaner, freer. The toughest cop in the city had finally taken off his armor, and underneath it he wasn't broken. He was just human, and for the first time since I met him, he looked like he believed it.